In reviewing for our quarterly exam, we're going to start with finding an unknown value of an angle measurement inside of a triangle when you know two of the measures. So the thing about triangles to understand is that they all add up to 180 degrees. That's the measures of all the angles, of course, add up to 180. So you can always subtract two measures that you know from 180 in order to find a missing angle measurement. So if we just subtract 68 degrees and also subtract 47 degrees, you can come out to the value of x. In this case, we're finding x. And when you do that, you should, in this case, where the measures are 68 and 47, you would come out to 65 degrees. Here, when you're being asked to find the circumference, okay, make sure you're reading exactly what is being asked to find. In this case, circumference, okay. What you would want to do is to multiply pi times diameter. So the formula looks like this, but in our scenario, we're being asked to use 3.14. So you're just simply going to punch in 3.14 times 18. When you do that, you should find your answer here in the multiple choice. I come out to 56.52 inches in this case. So again, just be sure you're reading thoroughly, okay, because you're being asked circumference. Because in another case, you're going to be asked to find the area of a circle, and that's in this example. Now you're being asked to find the area. This is a different calculation, okay. In this case, when you're asked to find the area, the way that you calculate it is you do pi times the radius squared, or you can look at it this way, all right. Pi times the radius times, again, the radius. That's really, when you're talking about radius squared, ultimately that's what you're doing, okay. So the radius is the distance between a center point in a circle and the edge, and we're using 3.14 again for our purposes. So we're going to do 3.14 times 8 times 8, and when you do that, comes out to 200.96 meters. You're going to be asked to identify acute, right, obtuse, and straight angles. So anything that is going to be less than 90 degrees, those are acute. And so this one is an acute angle, acute little angle. This is a straight line, obvious, right? 180 degrees. And this here, indications are that this is a right angle with that little square at the vertex. Anything greater than 90 degrees, okay, is considered obtuse. And of course, this one's greater than 90 degrees. You're going to be asked to find missing angle measurements when we have a set of complementary angles, which is what we have here. The reason I know that is because we have an indication here that the larger angle is 90 degrees, and we have two angles essentially inside of that 90-degree angle. We have a 37-degree angle, and we have an angle that is an unknown measurement. So all we do is take the total of the measures, that's 90 degrees. We're going to subtract the angle measure that we have, which is 37 degrees, and of course come out to 53 degrees. In this scenario, we're asked to find a missing angle inside of a set of supplementary angles. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. So you would just take 180 and subtract the measure we have, and come out to x. The value of x here is 50. All right, you'll be asked to identify complementary angles as far as what their characteristics are, and that is that they add to 90 degrees, of course. That's complementary. Okay, here we're asked to add two negative values. Okay, and the thing to remember about adding negative values, or we're adding values that are on the same side of 0. Okay, you're going to keep the sign, the common sign that is in those values. So it's essentially 3 plus 6, which is 9, but keep the negative sign. So the answer is -9 here. Okay, same situation. You're adding two negatives together. All right, you're moving further left on the number line. So if you consider that we're starting at -2, we're moving further left, we're going to land at -8. All right, here we have different signs that we're adding together. Okay, so consider the fact that we're starting at +10, but we're adding a -2. It's really the same effect as subtracting 2, to be honest. You know, adding two negatives or just subtracting 2, it's the same effect. We're going to move left on the number line, land at 8. Here we're adding to a negative. We're adding a positive value to a negative. Okay, so in this case, when you see different signs, you want to subtract those values, but use the sign from the number further away from 0. Okay, so as you can see, 4 is further from 0, so the answer to our problem is going to be positive. Okay, and let's take a look at a number line scenario so you can see what happens here, because you're going to end up crossing over 0, right, as we add 4, because this is 1, and then we have 2, 3, and there's 4. So we're adding again. Here it is, 1, 2, 3, 4. We land at 3, and that's why our answer is going to be +3. Okay. What's the value of the absolute value of -21? And that's exactly what this notation is here, these bars. Okay, it's asking you how far away from 0 that number is. And that's 21 units from 0, of course. -21 is 21 units away from 0. And that is the answer we're going to pick, 21. Now we're multiplying two values that have different signs. Okay, and again, if you see that we have a negative value and we're multiplying here against a +3. So it's +3 times -5. The rules state for multiplication and division, when you have different signs of these integers, that you're going to have a negative answer. So you do 3 times 5, of course that's 15. But since the signs are different, we're going to use a negative sign for our result, and that's going to be, the product is -15. In this scenario, we're dividing, okay, still using multiplication and division rules, but this time the signs are the same. Okay, we have the same signs, so the rules state that this should be a positive value, -8 divided by -2. This is going to be +16. Okay, and finally, here we're being asked, if you're adding -7 and -3, is the answer going to be positive or is it going to be negative? Okay, so we went over this in a previous example, but whenever you're adding integers with the same sign, you're going to use that common sign in the answer. Okay, so we have -7, we're adding another -3, right? So if you're starting at -7, right, we're moving again left, so this is going to stay negative as we get to -10. So the answer here, of course, is going to be negative.